We will continue with the fourth chapter of the book of Yoel. Here we go. And God has just told through Yoel that everything's going to be perfect, that things are going to be wonderful, that God is going to reveal himself to everybody. And in those days when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, ונשפטתי עמם שם על עמי ונחלתי Yisrael asher pizru b'goyim vet artzi chileku. And I'll gather the people into the valley of Yehoshaphat, and I will, take my revenge for them. I will take revenge because the Jewish people were scattered amongst the nations, and they were divided. What does the battle of Yehoshaphat mean? So is it referring to King Yehoshaphat? Is it referring to Yeho, like God, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the name of God, Shaphat? That's the place that God will judge. Unclear exactly how to understand what exactly that place is. V'yalami, we're in verse 3. Yadu goral v'yitnu hayeled b'zona v'yaldam achru b'yayin v'yishtu. And will cast lots over people, and those who bartered a boy for a prostitute and sold a girl for wine which they drink. Right, so here, what are you doing? Tyre and Sidon, we heard a lot of those, about those cities up in today's Lebanon, there's today's Syria, I think it's Lebanon, in the book of Yeshaya, and going down to all the places in Paleshet, in today would presumably be called Gaza. Do you have something for me? What are you going to give to me that I'm not going to take my vengeance upon you for what you've done to Bnei Yisrael? You took my gold, you took my silver, you carried off my precious treasure to your palaces. Right, just to think of best thought that we could think of the Arch of Titus, right? How could you take the menorah? How could you take this stuff back to Rome? Who do you think you are? V'nei Yehuda, v'nei Yerushalayim, mechartem levnei Yevanim, leman harchikam me'al gvulam. And you sold the people of Yehuda and the people of Jerusalem to the Ionians, the Greeks, the Yevanim, so that you have removed them from far away from their homeland. And here's the strange thing: was it sold us to the Greeks? That's later than all prophecy. That's something that hasn't, happened yet. Alexander the Great, it is like the year 350 before the Common Era or so, something of that sort. You can Google it while I'm talking to you and let me know if I'm right. I think it's something of that sort. And that's after the belief, according to Jewish tradition, that prophecy has ceased. And certainly, again, if Yoel is a first century prophet, first temple prophet, then certainly it's much, much later. He's referring to the Plishtim there, who are, sea people and are seen as coming from the general areas of the islands of Greece and the Mediterranean before they come to Israel. It's unclear. It's a difficult verse to understand exactly what it's referring to here. Continuing verse 7. I will cause them to leave the place that you sold them to, and I will pay you back for what you've done. I will deliver your sons and daughters to the hands of people of Yehuda, and they will sell them into captivity to a distant nation, for God has spoken. Of course, this is an interesting verse and difficult one. This is the justice of God, is Mida Keneged Mida, is merit for merit. We would hope the Jewish people, look at the way you wronged us. Are we going to wrong you in the same way? Maybe we should learn. Maybe we should act better. That's not the justice that's stated here. You took my people, you sold them into slavery. What is going to happen to you? They're going to sell you into slavery. So it's a difficult, I would say for us today, at least for me in the contemporary world, it's a difficult thing to think about that. We talk about Judaism, we talk about punishments in Jewish life, we talk about things like kefel, double punishment at times. You stole $100, in certain cases you're fined $200. Why are you fined $200? Well, you have to pay back the $100 that you stole. And how are we going to help rehabilitate you? Well, you're going to lose $100. If you lose $100, you'll understand what it's like to have $100 stolen from you, and maybe you'll stop stealing $100. Maybe you'll start stealing $200, but to make up for the $100 and the other $100. But right, this is not a rehabilitation for for the people of Tzor and Sidon and Palesh. And so it's just a little bit more, at least to me, it's what to think about. And, maybe we can invoke, in sense, what Maimonides, what the Rambam says about, the world getting more pure, the movement from animal sacrifices to prayer, and other ways that the world improves over time. This book is talking to an ancient people who hopefully in some ways were better than. Continue reading verse 9. So proclaim amongst the nations, prepare for battle, get your warriors ready, let all the fighters come. We're in 10. Here we have a very interesting verse. This is the undoing of Yeshaya. Yeshaya, right? What does Yeshaya say? Turn your swords into plowshares. And what is said here in the book of Yoel? Turn your plowshares into swords. And are they contradicting each other, or do we turn to a book we haven't seen yet? The book of Kohelet. 8 milchama, v8 shalom. There's a time for war and a time for peace. There's time for both. It seems again, coming back to what I said moments ago, we'd love the nirvana, the messianic vision, the harmony, the beauty of turning your swords into plowshares. But unfortunately, too often, that's not the reality. And this is what is being said to the people. Come and get ready for war. Right? Let even the weak say I'm strong. Continue in verse 11. So get yourself ready. All the nations are coming together from around. They're bringing down your warriors towards you, God. And God says, I'm going to take them to the valley of Yehoshaphat, and there I will sit in judgment over the nation. Shilchu magal kivashal katsir bo redu ki malagat. Swing the sickle, the crop is near. Come and tread on the winepress is full, the vats are overflowing. For great is their wickedness. Hamonim be'emek hecharutz ki karov yom Adonai be'emek hecharutz. There are all sorts of groups. Hamon, right? Many. There's many and many and many in this valley of, he says here, the valley of decision. It's like the valley of judgment, where the decision is going to be made on that God's day is coming. Shemesh ve'yareach kadaru v'chochavim asfu nagam. The sun and moon are darkness, and stars withdraw their brightness. Right. So God is, in a sense, setting them in, telling them, get their weapons, get ready, get ready for war, and come down. Everybody, even you farmers who don't want to go to war, take your weapons. It's sad. I can think, unfortunately, very sadly, I think in a sense of Gaza, where right, all these billions of dollars were sent in, where all these raw materials were, all the stuff that was left there, and what happened to all those things, all of the materials that were left there from the time when there were Israeli settlements in Gaza. The materials were taken, and tunnels were built, and bombs were built, and that's what. I'm not saying every Gazan is responsible. I'm not trying to say that, but that's the sense, unfortunately, under the leadership of Hamas. If I can get a little political, my apologies. And that's what we have here in this chapter. Here it's a little different. God is telling to them, get ready to go to war, because I know what's going to happen. Verse 16, Pasuk Tet Zayin. Va'Adonai mitzion yishag, u'mirushalayim yitain kol over ashu shamayim v'aretz va'Adonai machaseh la'amo ma'oz l'bnei Yisrael. And God will roar from Zion and shout from Jerusalem. The heavens and earth will tremble, but God will be a machaseh, a shelter and a fortress, a refuge for his people. Vidatem ki ani Adonai Elohechem shochem b'tzion har kodshi v'ayta Yerushalayim kodesh v'zarim lo yavru ba'od. And you will know that I am your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Yerushalayim will be holy. Nevermore will strangers pass through it. And there we see something, again, it's nice to reference in these smaller books. Other books we mentioned earlier, right, to the relations, the things that we see, we'll see later in the book of Kohelet. We saw stuff that contradicts what it says in Yeshaya. And in this book, that sounds a little bit like Yechezkel's vision of the future Beit HaMikdash that he talks about, when God's chariot returns from exile in Bavel, no Gentiles allowed. No uncircumcised are allowed. It's a much more restricted, right? And there's so we talked about the separation between, in a sense, the Kohanim and regular Bnei Israel, Bnei Israel and the Gentiles. And here too, that's what's being said, at least in this verse, because it's not surprising here, because it's really talking about a battle, a war that's going to happen with the enemies of Bnei Israel. Tzor and Sidon and Peleshet are the ones that are mentioned, but I imagine there are many others. We know there are many others from other books are going to be defeated. And so it makes sense that they would no longer have access to God through the temple. We're in verse Yudchet 18. Vaya bayomahu yitfu heharim asis vagvot helech nochala v'chol afike Yehuda yelchu mayim u'ma'ayan mibeit Adonai yatsa yetzei v'hishka et nachal Hashitim. And on that day, the mountains will drip with wine, and the hills will flow with milk, and all of the rivers and the creeks of Yehuda will flow with water. A spring will come from the house of God, and it will water everything, all of the valleys and all of the wadis of the Shittim. Mitzrayim lishmamatia v'adom lebidbar shmamatia. Egypt will be desolate. Edom will be wasted and desolate because of the outrage to the people of Yehuda, in whose land they shed the blood of innocents. Right, so you're going to pay the price, and of course that's part of the irony that's going on in these verses. Is Mitzrayim is always a land that was irrigated. It was the breadbasket of the ancient world because of the Nile. They didn't have exceptional famines. We know the famine during the time of Yosef, but if we think of the other places in the Torah, right? Avram goes down to Egypt because of a famine. Yitzchak is on his way down to Egypt because of a famine. That was the place you went when there was a famine, because there was always food. Well, here, Yehuda is going to be the one that's full of water, that's going to be irrigated, where there's going to be tons of crops. And Egypt, the enemy of Israel, who caused much damage, they will be desolate. They will be shimama. Yehuda le'olam teshev Yerushalayim ledor vador. But Yehuda will be inhabited forever, and Yerushalayim for all ages. And interesting to think about this. Again, it's just something from our history. If you've ever read, or you can look it up, when Nachmanides, the Ramban, I believe at the age 75, after winning the disputation in Tortosa or Barcelona, I forget where, he won the disputation. The Catholic Church complained. I think he was against the guy Pablo Cristiani, and the church intervened. I don't remember the exact details, but he was kicked out of, we'll call it Spain, even though it wasn't really Spain then, the Barcelona area where he lived, went to Israel, went to Yerushalayim, and at 75 years old, I believe it was, he tried to look for a minyan in Yerushalayim, and I don't remember if he barely found one or he didn't find one at all. And it was Yerushalayim was not like that. This prophecy is saying Yerushalayim will be inhabited like it is today, will be a city of greatness. Verse 21, V'niketi damam lo niketi, v'Adonai shochein b'tzion. And I will treat the innocent as their blood, and I will have no and God will dwell in Zion. Right? Those of you who are innocent, nothing is going to happen to you. You will be okay. Nothing is going to happen to you. And that's a verse that's cited as well every Shabbat almost in the Av HaRachamim prayer, the prayer that was composed in the aftermath of the Crusades. Right, after the reading of the Torah, before, we say technically before Musaf begins, the Chazan for Musaf has already taken the stage, and Av HaRachamim is proclaimed about the martyrs. And again, it was written in the aftermath of the Crusades, and that verse is mentioned here. V'niketi damam lo niketi v'Adonai shochein b'tzion. Right, the innocents whose blood was spilled, they're right. It's not going to happen anymore, and we have to understand that that's the case, and they will be treated as such. And so this book, Yoel, is a book, and it's classic of what we'll call the Nevi'im Achronim, the three Yirmiyah, Yeshaya, Yechezkel, and the 12, most of the 12 of the Treyasar, which is right. God is upset. It's less history. It's more of the people sinned. God is upset. Destruction is coming. And at least in some of the books, there's a hopeful ending, and here it's a very, very change from the beginning of the book, which is the locusts are coming, the swarm, the destruction like you've never seen before, to what Moshe requested, prophecy to all of Bnei Israel. Yerushalayim will live forever, will be a city where no innocent blood will shed anymore. Unfortunately, we have not reached that days, and we hope that prophecy comes through soon.